Hey guys! Welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing the mid-year book tag. I saw Rachel Catherine doing this video, so I thought I'd give it a try. So I've read 41 books this year, and I have questions that I film off of my phone. So I wrote the questions on paper, but I had them all in my notes app. But yeah, so let's just get started. The first question is, what's your favorite book of the year so far? So my favorite book so far this year is Keeping 13, which I started reading the Boys Atonement series in April, I think, and I read the first book, and I remember having like 2 chapters left, but at the end of school. It was the last 5 minutes of class, and I was like freaking out about what was happening. And I remember sitting in my car and reading the rest of the book before I drove home and literally just crying in my car in the school parking area. And I definitely cried in this one too. The first one's sad and this one's a little less sad, but like the stuff that ends at the end of this book is still sad. Before reading this book, I would check the trigger warnings, but it's so good. You get so attached to the characters and what they've been through. So I'm really excited to read the last 3 books. So the next question is, what is the best sequel you've read so far this year? And that would have to be A Court of Mist and Fury, which is by Sarah J. Maas. It's in the ACOTAR series. I read the whole Throne of Glass series last year. I only have the first 4, but I read the whole series. And I wanted to read ACOTAR because everyone tells you to read ACOTAR before Crescent City, which I also have right here. And I was a little hesitant about ACOTAR because of it's like rated adult and Throne of Glass is rated YA. And I absolutely love this book. I did not like the first book that much, but this book was so good. Like, it was just so good. I think it was the best sequel I have read all year long. So I'm gonna put this back now. The next question is a new release that's not out yet that you're excited to read. So the first new release, sorry, the books almost just fell on my lap. The new release that I want to read is Daydream, and it is the next book in the Maple Hills series. The first book is Icebreaker, and the second book is Wildfire. I read this book Thanksgiving break, and this book I read earlier this year, probably in February, I think. I definitely liked Icebreaker better, but the next book is Henry's story, because this book was Nathan's and this book was Russ, and they're all hockey players. I'm just so excited to read Daydream. Like, it comes out in August. I was so mad because it was supposed to come out in May, like May 5th. Like, I know the actual date it was supposed to come out, and then they changed it. And I'm so mad about it, but it's sometime in August. Like, I know it's like the last week of August that it comes out. I don't know the date now, but I'm so excited to read it. And the next book comes out July 2nd, which is Reckless by Lauren Roberts. And I have read Powerless and Powerful. I actually read this book just like a week ago. I love this book. This book made me cry at the end. I was so attached to the characters, and like, I remember laughing out loud. I gave this book 5 stars, and I gave this 3 stars, mostly because it's a novella and it's like that short. It's like 180 pages. I've only read a couple novellas, but this definitely is one of the better ones I've read. And I just love this series, and I'm so excited to see where it goes, because like the conflict at the end of this series, I'm just excited to see where it goes. So the next question is the biggest surprise of the year. So that would have to be City of Bones, which was one of the books that I read at the beginning of the year. I read it in January, and my cousin got this for my birthday, and I've been wanting to read this book for probably a year or 2, but since this book is the first book in like a 20-book universe, and so I think the reason I just hadn't picked it up was because the universe is really big and there's a lot of books that you have to read. But since I've read this book, I have read 4 more of her books, and I'm in the middle of her last book in the Infernal Devices series. I'm like that far through. I also stopped in the middle of the series. I haven't picked this book up in like a month. As you guys can see, I stop in the middle of books quite often to pick up other books, because when I get bored, I don't force myself to read them. I just like put it down and say I'll come back to it later. But I am just so happy that he got this for me. He didn't even know I wanted it. He watched the TV series on the Shadowhunters, which is, the TV series is on the City of Bones series, so he was just kind of lucky getting me the first book in a 20-book series that I had already wanted to read too, but it was really good. So the next question is the biggest disappointment of the year, which I was actually really sad about this one because I was so excited to read this book, and that's if he had been with me. This is gonna be, some people are gonna really disagree with me, but I don't think that she should, like, this book is where you are brought through the whole 4 years of this girl, Autumn, and you're brought through the whole 4 years of her high school. And then this section of the book is probably about one summer, and it's right after she graduated and she's about to go into college, and it's when the romance between Finn is starting to go. And the ending of this book, I don't see the point of reading 400 pages and then you get the ending that you get. I see why it's sad, but I think it was a waste of my time. And a lot of people are gonna be mad that I say that, and you know what, that's okay, because we all have our own opinions. But because this book is TikTok famous. If you don't know what this book is, then what are you doing? But I'm happy that I know why everyone cries now, but this book didn't make me cry. So yeah, it just didn't hit for me the same way it apparently hit for some other people. The next book is your new favorite author, and I read, the new author is Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I read the Naturals series with the Naturals series, which my grandparents got me for Christmas, and my friend actually has all that series. But then my friend had already read the Inheritance Game series, and she convinced me to read them, and so I have those right here by my fourth wing. The Inheritance Games, and this is the first book, and then the second book, and then the Final Gambit. And these books were so good. I can't pick which one I like more, the Natural series or the Inheritance Games. Like, I don't know which one I like more because they're both so good. I have read almost every, no, that's a lie. She has another series that I haven't even touched. I was gonna say I've read almost all of her books, but I really haven't. And I just, when I read her books, I read them within a day. The third book in the Natural series, it's called All In. I read it in a day. Like, I think that's the only time I've ever done that, because I have a very short attention span and I can't sit down and read a book like that, but I did. And that book is like a 400-page book, like 300, 400, because it's later in the series and they get bigger as the series goes, and I'm like, I just really like her writing. I think it's really good. So the next question is your new fictional crush, which I already talked about this book, and I'm trying not to repeat too many books, but I feel like I had to talk about it, is Johnny from Finding and Keeping 13. He's just so sweet. After all Shannon's been through, and after what he's going through, he still puts Shannon first every single time. And I hope one day I have a boyfriend like him. So that's my take on this. Your new favorite character. So I gotta move some books around because they're kind of getting everywhere. But your new favorite character is Peyton from Powerless. And I know I already talked about this book, and I'm trying not to repeat too many books, but Peyton is going through so much, and it says it on the back of this book. The whole world is like, there are elites who have powers and there are ordinaries. Peyton isn't ordinary. She doesn't have powers, and she was put in this trial made for elites because they think she has powers, because she lied, because in the town that she lives in, if you're an ordinary, then you're killed. Like, they don't allow ordinaries to live in their town. So she's been living her whole life convincing them that she does have powers and that she's a psychic. And she was thrown into these trials for the elites, and she has no powers. And I just think she's so strong, and everything she goes through, she makes it through. And like, I just love her. So that my favorite character, new character, is Peyton. A book that made you cry. So I think I've already mentioned quite a few books in this video that have made me cry, but one book in particular is Just for the Summer, and I got this book from Book of the Month, and it was just so good. Like, I read this book within 2 days, and it's a pretty big book. Like, I think it's 400 pages. And the main character's name is Emma, and then the love interest is Justin. And Emma's been through a lot. Justin is going through stuff right now. And it just made me cry at the end when the conflict happens, because there's no miscommunication. She is communicating what the problem is, and it's just so sad at the end. I mean, it all works out, obviously, but it's sad. So the next question is books I haven't read but want to read this year. So that would have to be Saving and Redeeming 6, which are the next 2 books in the Boys of Tommen series. Saving 6 comes first, and then Redeeming 6. And I don't have the 5th book, which is Gipsy's book called Taming 7, but I want to get it as soon as I read those books. And then I also want to read Archer's Voice, which I've heard people cry about. I don't really know, I know nothing about this book. I just know people cry, and it's like really popular. That's why I got it. So the final question is my favorite author, and this actually doesn't have to do with like books I've read so far this year. It's just my favorite author in general, and that would have to be Sarah J. Maas. I've read every single one of her books, all 16, and I even have mini books of some of her Throne of Glass things that my friend gave me, of Kingdom of Ash and Empire of Storm. And I have the first 4 books in the Throne of Glass series, which is my favorite series by her. And then I have the whole ACOTAR series, which I got for Christmas. And I have read all her Crescent City books, which, if I had to rank the series, it would be Throne of Glass, ACOTAR, and then Crescent City. So she's one of my favorite authors. And then my other favorite author is Rebecca Yarros from because she wrote Fourth Wing. And I actually fully annotated my original Fourth Wing copy. I want to do the same thing with Iron Flame. I only did this like a month ago, and I fully annotated it, and like I went in there and I underlined stuff too. I don't know if you can tell I underlined things, but I have never annotated a book, and it just to annotate my own book. And I even have like one of those things right here. So yeah. And that is the end of today's video. So I hope you guys enjoyed looking at my mid-year book tag. I've seen quite a few people do it, so see you next week. Bye!